I want to tell you about a Tuesday morning a few years ago that I genuinely cannot get out of my head. I hadn't woken up to a crisis. No bad news. Nothing dramatic. Just an ordinary Tuesday. Coffee. Emails. The same ceiling I'd stared at for years. And yet before my feet even hit the floor, something had already started. This low hum of dread. A quiet little inventory of everything unfinished, everything uncertain, everything I hadn't solved yet. By the time I was in the shower, I'd already mentally replayed 3 conversations that hadn't gone well, worried about 2 things that hadn't even happened, and decided somewhere in the back of my mind that today was probably going to be hard. Here's the thing. Nothing had happened, and I remember standing there thinking, why does my brain do this? Why is the default setting something so heavy? I hadn't chosen those thoughts. They just arrived. Uninvited. Fully formed. Like they owned the place. That question stayed with me for a long time. And when I finally went looking for answers, what I found wasn't what I expected. Because it turns out, this isn't a personal failure. It's not anxiety. It's not a character flaw. It's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. Just doing it in a world it was never designed for. Let me explain. Your brain has something neuroscientists call the default mode network. It's a network of brain regions that activates during rest and self-referential thinking. So basically, when your brain has nothing specific to focus on, nuuni, you're not solving a problem, not reading, not in a conversation, nuuni, this network switches on automatically. And what does it do? It helps you plan, reminisce, imagine, wander. That sounds fine, useful even. But here's where it gets interesting. This same network has a pull toward the negative, not because you're a pessimistic person, not because your life is objectively bad, but because evolutionarily speaking, your brain was built for threat detection. The minds that survived were the ones that kept scanning, that kept asking, what could go wrong? What haven't I solved yet? What danger haven't I noticed? Research suggests the brain preferentially processes negative information through this self-referential network, and that biased processing is what drives ruminative thoughts. Think about that for a second. The same network behind your daydreaming and mental wandering has a built-in tendency to pull toward what's wrong, which means on an ordinary Tuesday morning, when you haven't given your brain a job to do, it goes looking for problems. Not because there are problems, because that's the default. And here's what fascinates me. Most people spend enormous energy trying to push those thoughts away. They distract themselves. They scroll. They stay busy. Some of that works temporarily, but none of it actually changes the default setting. There's something that does, though, and it's so simple that when I first read the research on it, I almost dismissed it entirely. I thought, that can't be it. There has to be more. But the data kept saying the same thing. Study after study. Lab after lab. The habit is this. Write down what you're grateful for. That's it. I know how that sounds. Just stay with me. James Pennebaker at the University of Texas at Austin pioneered expressive writing research back in the 1980s. What he found through decades of work was that writing about your inner experience, your thoughts, your emotions, what matters to you, produces measurable biological and psychological changes, cognitive, emotional, social, biological, across the board. But the gratitude piece specifically, the verst, that's where things get genuinely strange. Researchers Robert Emmons and Michael McCullough ran a series of now famous experiments, published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2003. They split participants into groups. One group wrote weekly about things they were grateful for. Another wrote about daily hassles and frustrations. A third wrote about neutral events. The gratitude groups showed heightened well-being across multiple outcome measures, and the effect on positive affect was the most consistent finding across all three studies. And this is the part that kind of blew my mind. It wasn't just mood. People who regularly documented things they were grateful for reported more optimism, more exercise, fewer physical symptoms, and more progress toward their personal goals. They were sleeping better, more likely to help other people. Their bodies were literally responding differently. From writing down what they appreciated. How does putting words on a page change how your immune system functions? I mean, that seems like a stretch, right? Here's what's actually happening in your brain. When we practice gratitude, the brain releases serotonin and dopamine. But it's not just the momentary chemistry. By writing down moments of thankfulness, we actively start rewiring the brain, building emotional resilience, and creating a kind of buffer against stress and depression. The word rewire gets thrown around a lot. I want to be specific about what it actually means here. Regular gratitude practice reduces activation of the amygdala, your brain's threat detection center. That's the structure doing all the scanning. The engine behind that Tuesday morning feeling. The thing generating the low hum of unease before your feet hit the floor. When you consistently practice gratitude, you're not suppressing the amygdala. You're training the prefrontal cortex, the rational, regulating part of your brain, newer, to exert more control over it. You're changing who wins the argument inside your own head. This practice strengthens neural pathways associated with optimism and emotional regulation. And neural pathways aren't metaphors. They're literal physical connections between neurons, reinforced through repetition. The same way a path through tall grass gets worn down by consistent foot traffic. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. Now here's the part I had to sit with for a while, because it goes against something most people instinctively believe. Most people think gratitude is a response to good things happening, that you feel grateful because life is going well. But the research suggests the relationship actually works the other way. You don't feel lighter because good things happened. You feel lighter because you trained your brain to notice what was already there. As positive psychology researcher Sanja Lubomirsky puts it, gratitude is a kind of meta-strategy for achieving happiness, not a result of happiness, a strategy for it, a tool that works not by changing your circumstances, but by changing what your brain is primed to scan for. Because remember that default mode network, the one pulling toward threat and unresolved problems? Gratitude practice doesn't eliminate it, but it gives the brain a competing habit, a different default. You're essentially hacking the scanning mechanism. Instead of automatically searching for what's missing, you're teaching it to also scan for what's present. And the research suggests this happens faster than most people expect. Participants in structured gratitude practices showed meaningfully lower depression scores compared to control groups, Sinani, and these improvements happened across pretty short intervention periods. We're talking 2 to 12 weeks. 2 to 12 weeks. That's not years of therapy. That's not a complete life overhaul. That's a notebook, and a few minutes before the rest of your day begins. I want to address something directly, because I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, this sounds like toxic positivity, like being told to count your blessings while real problems exist. A surface-level fix dressed up in neuroscience language. I thought the same thing, genuinely. But here's why I changed my mind. This practice isn't about denying pain, or pretending everything is fine. The research never asks people to ignore their problems. It just asks them to also notice what's real and good and present. Those aren't mutually exclusive. You can hold both. You can acknowledge difficulty and simultaneously train your brain to see what that difficulty exists alongside. What Pennebaker's research kept revealing, Hindi, and what the gratitude literature confirms, is that our psychological suffering is often not proportional to our circumstances. People who experienced trauma and kept it secret were more likely to have health problems. It wasn't the trauma itself causing the damage. It was the suppression, the silence, the weight of carrying something without ever putting language to it. Writing gives the mind a way to process. It takes something circulating endlessly inside and puts it outside. And something happens in that translation, heal, from thought to word, that changes your relationship with the thought itself. There's one more thing the research found that I think most people overlook. Weekly gratitude journaling may actually be more beneficial than daily practice for maintaining its psychological effects. That surprised me. I'd assumed more would be better, but there seems to be a diminishing return when it becomes so frequent it turns mechanical. What matters more than frequency is depth, entries that prompt deeper reflection, not just what you're grateful for, but why. Significantly enhanced happiness and well-being. Not a list, a reflection, not 3 bullet points rattled off before coffee, a genuine moment of attention given to something real. Why does this matter to me? Why would my life feel different without it? What does it say about what I actually value? That depth is where the neural change actually happens. That's where your brain begins to build new defaults. And now we're back to Tuesday morning. I still wake up sometimes with that quiet inventory, the unfinished things, the uncertain things. I don't think that ever fully disappears, null, because that scanning mechanism is ancient and useful and genuinely part of what makes us human. I'm not trying to eliminate it, but there's something else now too, a different kind of morning habit, a few minutes, a notebook, not a performance of gratitude, not a list of things I think I should appreciate, something slower, something that asks, what is actually real and present and good right now, even inside an ordinary Tuesday? Studies involving over 26,000 participants have found measurable improvements in depression symptoms, anxiety, sleep quality, and overall life satisfaction from this one practice. Not a medication, not a major life change, not years of work. A habit, a few minutes, words on a page. Your brain was built to scan. You can't stop it from scanning, but you can slowly, consistently, over weeks, teach it what to look for. And when you change what your brain notices by default, you change how every single day feels to live inside of. That's not a small thing. That's everything.